Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin'. Since we've already talked about some of the best horror movie mothers, it's time to talk about some of the worst mothers. From the most extreme, God-fearing women to maternal figures that won't even stay dead. These are my top 10 worst mothers in horror movies. Marge Thompson, A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Teens of Elm Street are being plagued by nightmares of a severely burned man with a glove made of knives. Soon, they're under attack when they're at their most vulnerable, and many won't wake up at all. This is one of those cases where some good intentions go wrong. Is Marge trying to take care of her daughter in a single-parent style? Sure, but she's not a very good listener, or open to what her daughter is desperately trying to tell her. Nancy was very nearly killed due to her mother's repeated misinterpretations and ignorance. Not to mention that Marge was one of the reasons why Freddy was attacking Nancy and all the other teens in the first place. Though I can't say I'm against the reasoning behind it. Missy Armitage, Get Out, 2017. When a young man travels with his girlfriend to her family's home, he experiences some expected awkwardness. However, it doesn't take long for this to escalate into full-blown paranoia and panic when he discovers why some of the people here are acting so odd. Dean was one of my not-so-honorable mentions on my worst fathers in horror movies list, but I decided to put Missy at number 9 here. And that's because Missy is so passive about Chris's concerns. Not to mention that she really doesn't seem to find anything at all wrong with what her husband is doing to these people. Her own children are essentially just tools and pawns in the family business. There's a calloused and cold nature about her and everything she does that's simply unsettling. Katherine, the Witch, 2015. A settler family in 1630s New England finds themselves cast out by their village and forced to make a new home for themselves. When the infant of the family disappears, things quickly spiral into witch and Satan-oriented paranoia. Taking into account the general role of a wife and mother during this time period, Katherine blindly trusts everything her husband says and does, for the most part. When it comes to the delegation of responsibility, it truly seems like she makes Thompson a third parent. And yet, when things begin to go downhill, Katherine turns on Thompson. During the climax, she even attempts to kill Thompson, who is forced to kill her in self-defense, despite not wanting to. The Other Mother, Coraline, 2009. A young girl is transported to a similar yet drastically different world from her own when she discovers a secret door in her new home. Initially, everything seems perfect, but over time, she begins to see this world and its residents for what they really are. Other Mother is a terrifying figure when she reveals her true form. However, there's still something unsettling about her when she's pretending to be the mother Coraline wants. Yes, she creates this fantastic existence for Coraline, but it isn't real. Those she uses to entice Coraline are essentially prisoners, and she plans to basically kill Coraline like she did with past children. She's a spider who's made the nicest web for her prey to be killed in. Woman or Mommy, The People Under the Stairs, 1991. A young boy finds himself trapped in the house of two psychotic individuals who are keeping a twisted secret within the walls of their home. You want to talk about unfit for motherhood. The woman, or Mommy, is unhinged in practically every aspect, unless she has to pretend like everything is fine to save face. She's something of a mastermind behind her and Daddy's whole operation to screw over residents under their control. Alice lives in fear mostly because of her and the abuse she deals out towards her. And there's a whole basement full of children and teens that apparently didn't meet her standards. And she's racist. Ellen Taper-Leigh, Hereditary, 2018. After the death of the maternal grandmother, a family is thrown into turmoil and tragedy, which only gets worse the more that's uncovered about the grandmother's strange history. I've seen a number of people include Annie on lists similar to this. However, I feel that her mother deserves to be on my list more than Annie. All of this is her fault anyway. The effects of what she had done and said and set in motion are seen even after she's gone. She had attempted to use her own son as a pawn, resulting in him taking his own life, and then did essentially the same thing with Charlie and Peter. In short, she destroyed an entire family. Vera Cosgrove, Dead Alive 1992. After a strange monkey bites a woman, a zombie-like virus spreads despite the best efforts of her son. This results in carnage and insane gore. Vera was an overbearing mother to a whole other level, and each aspect of her nature as a mother was toxic and detrimental to Lionel. It's this very needy behavior that triggered the cataclysmic events that followed. Even after she died and came back, she continued to mess with Lionel's life, and made it even more difficult. The climax was also purely and simply nightmare fuel. Norma Bates, Psycho 1960. Hoping to start a new and better life, a woman steals money and makes a hasty escape to another state. On the way, she stops at a motel managed by a young man caring for his unwell mother. It will be the last place she ever visits. From one toxic overbearing mother to another, Norma really was the catalyst for how Norman turned out. Her overbearing and toxic behavior was twisting her son's mental health from the start. The more we learn about Norman's life, the clearer the picture of his mother becomes, and she still continued to ruin his life even after he killed her. Margaret White, Carrie, 1976 and 2013. An outcast young woman finds that she has the ability to affect things around her using her mind. When a sinister prank ruins prom for her, she unleashes those same powers. Have I mentioned that I don't like people who use religion to vilify those who don't think the same way as them? This is exactly what Margaret does, even to her own daughter, resulting in nearly every type of abuse there is. The religious trauma is real here. Carrie is severely insecure and cut off from her peers, mainly due to her mother constantly berating and belittling her. Sure, Margaret has her own issues and trauma, but I rarely find this to be an excuse to pass said trauma on to your children. The complete lack of acceptance and frigid way she treats Carrie contributes to her snapping completely, and in the end, she attempts to murder Carrie as well. Before I talk about my pick for the number 1 spot, here are a couple of dishonorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Mother 6000, Alien 1979. Aunt Martha, Sleepaway Camp 1983. Mother, Mother's Day 1980. 3 women going camping are kidnapped and tortured by 2 brothers, who perform these horrendous acts in order to please their elderly mother. What's worse than a demented old woman? A demented old woman who's raised her sons to be just as sick as she is. She encourages pretty much all of the brutalizing that her sons do towards these innocent women. To her, this is all a game, and the best sort of entertainment she could enjoy. She also exploits the preconceived notions that some may have in regards to her appearance and age. But she's definitely not a kindly old woman anyone would want to meet. So those were my picks for the top 10 worst mothers in horror movies. Don't forget to give this video a like and leave a comment with your picks for worst mothers. See you later.